Hola, everyone. My name is Amber, and today we will be diving into the rich and mesmerizing world of Mexican folklore. A few questions we will be uncovering in this video are what makes Mexican folklore culture important? Regarding common concepts like love, death, and the afterlife, how are these ideas expressed through Mexican folklore, specifically its legends, songs, and poetry? Lastly, what other ethnic influences contribute to Mexican folklore? Let's get into it. A few reasons Mexican folklore culture is so important is because it is a way to preserve one's own heritage, uncover moral and ethical lessons, as well as express cultural identity. For example, many Mexican folkloric legends are not just for entertainment, but tell a story that symbolizes the culture's values, aspirations, as well as fears. These legends can also depict Mexican folklore's values of love, devotion, and nature. One legend that portrays a moral lesson and is also used as a cautionary tale for children is that of La Llorona. This legend is about a wife that seeks revenge on her husband due to his infidelity. As a result, she murders her own children. She is stricken with sorrow because of her actions and cries in the middle of the night, as well as taunts other unfaithful men. However frightening and uncomfortable this story is told, this legend can still serve as a cautionary tale for the consequences of moral choices as well as regret. It also teaches the importance of family and compassion. The legend of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl is a tragic love story that is also linked to Mexico's natural landscapes. This legend tells the story of the love between Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl. Before their union, Popocatépetl voluntarily goes off to battle in order to receive Iztaccíhuatl's father's blessing. During this, Iztaccíhuatl is falsely informed that Popocatépetl has died. She is then so stricken with grief that she passes away. When he returns and discovers her death, he mourns by her side eternally as the gods transform the two into majestic volcanoes, never moving. Since the Popocatépetl volcano is still active to this day, it is said this shows his unyielding grief as well as his devotion to her. Another legend that showcases the importance of the power of love is the legend of the Day of the Dead, Cempasuchil. Xochitl and Huitzilin are two Aztec youths that are deeply in love. As kids, they would climb a mountain and offer their flowers to the sun god, Tanadia. After Huitzilin died from his time in the war, Xochitl was so heartbroken she went to the sun god, Tanadia, and asked to somehow reunite them. Tanadia was so moved by her loss, as well as their lifetime of floral offerings to the sun god, that Tanadia transformed Xochitl to a Cempasuchil flower. Tanadia then rebirths Huitzilin as a hummingbird. Tanadia did this to symbolize the Cempasuchil flower and hummingbird as their eternal love and connection. Not only does this legend portray Mexican culture's viewpoint on love, but it also highlights the importance of their connection to nature and tradition. For example, the Cempasúchil flower is an essential component in the Day of the Dead celebrations. In other words, you cannot have a Day of the Dead celebration without seeing Cempasúchil flowers displayed at the event. These flowers are also used to guide loved ones' spirits back to the living world. This also shows how Mexican culture's viewpoints on death and the afterlife are not really looked at in a grim and scary light. It's actually quite the opposite. Their viewpoint is that even though death is horrifying and inevitable, it does not mean the spirit and essence of that person is gone. A way that Mexican folklore shows its value in the obedience of children is also by its folktales. A certain folktale that was found by Philip D. Jordan from the Mexican people in St. Paul, Minnesota, was about a boy that was asked by his grandmother to get a barrel of water down by their water station. The grandson talked back and refused to get the water. As a result of him disobeying, she cursed him by getting a grasshopper and putting a pin in its mouth. The grandson began bleeding from his own mouth. He then repented, and the grandmother released the curse. This story supports the concept of the importance of children behaving in the Mexican culture that is shown through its many tales. Another way Mexican folklore shows its viewpoints on love is by its music. A popular folk mariachi song about devotion and love is Si Nos Dejan by Jose Alfredo Jimenez. This song is a staple in Mexican culture that discusses love can endure in the face of obstacles. Something interesting about Mexican folklore is that it incorporates many other ethnic influences to blend together to create almost its own special culture. Some of these influences include Native American, Spanish, African, as well as European. For example, in a journal article by Carlota Garfias, she discusses how many kids, riddles, and song games in Mexican culture are similar to that of European culture. To illustrate, the English game song London Bridge has its own interpretation and game that goes parallel to this in Mexican folklore. Another way European influences come into play with Mexican folklore is the previously discussed legend of La Llorona. Even though this legend is known as a Mexican legend, it has been discovered that the legend has deep European roots. In Basil Kirtley's article, where she discusses the geographical expanse of the legend and its true origin, she states, "The evidence assembled has supported the contentions. The biographical narratives of La Llorona have close parallels among European traditions, and the latter appear to be older than the Mexican stories." African influences have also contributed to Mexican folklore. For instance, the song La Bamba has been found to have African ties, as it is thought to have originated in the 18th century when African slaves were being brought to Mexico. Obviously, during this, African slaves would bring their own essence and culture, and along with that, their own culture's rhythm, which influenced Spanish music at the time. The types of songs like La Bamba became their own genre, which is called a son jarroco, which is a type of traditional folk genre that blends African, Spanish, and indigenous musical elements. These values and concepts like love, death, and the afterlife, shown through its legends, tales, and songs, as well as the many other ethnic influences, is just the surface of what makes Mexican folklore so interesting and special.